Hi, good evening. I'm so happy to be back with you. I know it's been a while. Today I'm going to be talking about Hannah. We're going to be looking at her. We just want to continue our series with women, looking at women of the Bible. And today we're going to be talking about Hannah. She's a woman that a lot of people are familiar with. It's a very, very familiar story. So I'm going to be looking into 1 Samuel chapter 1. I'm not going to read all of it because it's a very familiar passage. I'm sure some of us had to study verses from this for Sunday school when we were growing up. So I'm just going to read verse 27 as I talk with you today about Hannah. And my theme is, "For this I prayed." For this I prayed. Okay, verse 27, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him." For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him. Very, very beautiful story of this young woman, this wife. She was the wife of Elkanah. And Elkanah was a wealthy man, but he had two wives. He had two wives, and the scripture tells us that the name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. Peninnah. Okay. All right. So what you find is that even though, Michelle, are you trying to say something to me? Hi, Michelle. I probably missed the message. Even though we see a lot of men in the Bible having several wives, it doesn't mean that this was God's perfect will. Because when we see God doing the first marriage in the Garden of Eden, he says it's not good for a man to be alone. And he made Adam, and he brought Adam Eve. He brought Eve out of Adam, and he presented her to him in the Garden of Eden. God did not give Adam several wives. So that is just a prime example to show what is truly the perfect will of God. Of course, we see many times in the Bible the Lord warned against marrying, taking on a lot of women. Not just that, but chariots and horses. And he spoke this word to Moses to especially warn the children of Israel that at some point they would be asking for a king like other nations, because they tend to want to do what they see everybody else around them doing. And even in the world today, that's nothing new. People tend to want to do what everybody else is doing. People tend to want to fit in. And as a result, we end up sometimes displeasing the Lord. So here they wanted to fit in. Other nations had a king. They wanted a king. And Israel has always wrestled with finding an image of God, or because the other nations, they had many gods, and their gods were physical. They were made of wood, stones, and you name it, gold, silver. And they could put a physical image to it. It was something that they could touch, though it had no feeling. But Israel's God, there is none like him, could not be seen. Right? And I guess they wanted to be like other nations. So we see from time to time, they started getting involved in idolatry, creating these gods and worshiping them and other stuff. So yes, so my point was about marrying, having several wives. So here, it was not, as we know, it is not the perfect will of God. There's never any ideal situation when it comes to multiple wives. There is always contentions. Every one of the stories we look at in the Bible, and we see men with several wives, there is contention, whether or not it was told or not, because not everything is recorded. So there is always conflict. There is jealousy. There is envy. There is mockery and all. So here he has two wives. One is Hannah, and one is Peninnah. When as I prepared and I looked at the name of Elkanah, I really liked the meaning of his name. Elkanah's name, which means God has created. So it speaks to the power of God to create. And I really absolutely love this, because as we continue to read in the scripture, we see where one of his wives, she struggled to have children. She was barren. She could not bring forth. And I look at it and I was like, oh, one, he has, looking at the fact that God has created, that's the name of Elkanah, that in itself should be a message that God is a creator. And even though at this point in my life I am challenged, at this point in my life I'm not able to bring forth. At this point in my life, I really want a child, but it's not happening. And what does that say? If you are reminded that you have this person constantly to remind you that God is indeed a creator, he can give you everything that you need. That's the awesome power of God. So here we see the conflict now between these two women, because Hannah, she desperately wanted a child, and Peninnah could have children. And as she had children, she constantly mocked Hannah. She constantly made boast, and she tried to make her feel bad. The word of God says she mocked her so much that she started to fret. Sometimes in our lives we have lack, because barrenness really speaks to lack. We do not have enough. We have lack in an area, and it could be in any area. We experience different kinds of lack. For somebody it might be financially, for somebody it might be health-wise, for somebody it might be on the job. It might be that you lack a skill, or you think you lack the ability to do something, but there is lack. And as a result, this woman who thought she was full, which is Peninnah, and who thought she had everything, as opposed to being encouraging or supportive, she was a competitor. And she was an aggressive competitor, so she mocked Hannah sore. She mocked Hannah so much that Hannah started fretting. Maybe she was wondering, I wonder if my husband will leave me because I can't bear him children. I wonder if he will not be satisfied with me any longer. And especially because she's here and she's being mocked by somebody who can do better than her. Or she's being mocked by somebody who at this point is in a better position. Sometimes, and this is why we must be humble in life, because we never know. There's always this saying, when you're going up the ladder, be careful how you treat others who are coming down. Because tomorrow it might be you coming down that very ladder. And Peninnah never thought about that. She just mocked Hannah until Hannah was worried. She was fretting. It was such a problem to her. She desperately wanted children. She desperately wanted to feel equal. Sometimes we're in a position and we become desperate. We want to feel equal. We want to feel as though we are able to. We want to fit in. And we also want to be able to, we know that there is something inside of us and we want to see the best. I think there is something that was lingering inside of Anna that kept telling her that, you can have children and it is going to happen someday, even though it's not happening now. And I'm speaking to somebody who is in a position like Hannah. Your prayer might not be for children. Your prayer might be for that job. My God, it might be for that promotion. And you're thinking, my God, there are other people around me who are more talented, who are more qualified, but for reasons I do need this position. And it's not that I'm not working towards it. It's not that all I'm doing is sitting down and being worried. It means a lot to me, and I'm not just asking God for these things so I can be proud or so I can be boastful. Sometimes we're asking for things and we do have the right reasons behind it. We're seeking after things because we have a need and because we have plans. Sometimes plans not just for ourselves, but for our family and our extended family. And sometimes you're asking for things because you have a vision of where you would want to be. I think that with Anna, when we look into the scriptures, for a while there was no teaching priest. For a while there was no word, because we see that Eli and his sons were not doing according to the will of God. I mean, Eli's sons were in the temple and they were doing whatever they pleased. They were ravishing the women. They were being greedy and taking more than what belonged to them. They were forcing the hand of the people. My God. So Israel really needed a prophet at this time. Israel needed a word. And sometimes when there is a burning desire on the inside of us, it's because there is a need. The nation might have a need. Your community might have a need. And you keep saying to yourself, why is it that I keep wanting to do this program for children? I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified because I do not have the money. I do not have the means to make it happen. But somehow this burning desire is not leaving me. You might be that person like Hannah. You might feel incompetent. You might have a lack. But somehow that burning desire to bring forth a child is not leaving. And she asked God. She was very specific about what she wanted, because we see where she prayed and she asked God for a man-child. I want to say to a person here who is listening today, or who will listen to this video at some point, be very specific with God in your prayer about what you want. Anna did not just ask for a child. She asked for a man-child. She wanted a man-child. Israel needed a prophet, my God. And of course, according to the word and the prophecy about the Messiah coming, it was so important for women of, in those days. Everybody wanted to see if that prophecy would be fulfilled through them. They wanted to have children. They wanted to bear a man-child. Anna asked God specifically, God, give me a man-child. What is it that you're asking God for? What is it that you need? Are you being very specific about the things that you need? I want to say to Hannah today, you might have a vision. You might be saying, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for children in my community. This is what I would like to do for my church. This is what I desire to do for my family. But I also want to say to you, when you go to God in prayer for the things that you desire, be very specific in your prayer. Anna said, Lord, give me a man-child. She was very specific. I think that is in verse 11, 1 Samuel chapter 1. She asked God for a man-child. As you see the things that you desire and you seek God for those things that you desire, I want to encourage you to be very specific in your prayer. Lord, I want to help the teens in my community. This is what I need to make it happen. I need a home. I need a place. I need this amount of square foot of space to make this happen. Whatever your desire is, be specific to God. I need this amount of money so that I can purchase the property, so that I can have a nursing home. I need this amount of money. This is what I need. This and this and this is exactly what I need to have so that the vision can be fulfilled. Write the vision and make it plain. So here she spoke to God and she was specific. The thing about it, that while they waited and while they prayed and while there was this lack and while she was being pressured by Peninnah, what I like is that they never stopped going to Shiloh. They never stopped sacrificing. And I think that's the mistake some of us make today. We have desires, we have needs, we have things we would like to do in ministry, we have things we would like to do for our family. And we pray about something and God doesn't answer immediately, because he's also teaching us patience. And sometimes because we have to wait, we quit. Sometimes because he's processing us and the things that we are praying for is not happening immediately, we give up. We stop sacrificing. We stop doing the things for God that he asked us to do or that he requires of us to do. Some of us become very complacent and we no longer commit to God the way we used to. Why? Because he has not answered our prayer in the time that we expected him to. Now, Hannah and Elkanah, for as long as they waited, they still went to Shiloh every year to offer sacrifice. Are you still giving sacrifice? Are you still making sacrifice? Are you still committing to the things that God entrusted to you while you wait on him to answer your prayer? And I looked at the meaning of Shiloh, and it says to whom it belongs. I love that. The one to whom it belongs. This is where they went to sacrifice every year. The one to whom it belongs. This place was dedicated to God, and the people of God went there to offer sacrifice. They didn't just go when everything was okay. They didn't just go when they had things their way. Now, at one point, and I want to go back a little, I remember as she was hurt and she was in pain about not being able to give her husband children, and she was worried and she was provoked sore by Peninnah. I think her husband at some point did not understand her pain, and he said to her, "Am I not better to thee than 10 sons?" Now, Elkanah took her passion and her pain, he was taking it personal. Sometimes we're in pain for the things that we desire or for the experiences that we're having. We're in pain on the job. We're in pain in our community. We're in pain in our church or among our family members. And sometimes the people close to us don't understand. Why is this hurting you so much? I don't understand. And here he is taking it personal, saying to Hannah, "Am I not better to thee than 10 sons?" But Elkanah, it's not about you. Unless you're in Hannah's shoes, it's going to be difficult for you to understand. Sometimes it's difficult for the persons around you to understand why some things hurt you the way they do, why you're so passionate about things the way you are passionate. Some people may not understand why you sacrifice so much for your goals or for your dreams. Why does this mean so much to you? Others who look at it and say to themselves, "You know, if I tried so much and it didn't work out, I would have given up already." Somebody's like, "Why is it that you get up 5 o'clock every morning to pray? Your prayers are not being answered. Why not stop?" Elkanah is saying, "Am I not better to thee than 10 sons?" He didn't understand why Hannah was so troubled, because he's thinking to himself, "I love you, and every time I give to both of you, I give Peninnah something, but I give you a worthy portion. I give you a double portion. I give you enough to make you realize that I do not love you any less because you can't bear me children, because you have no kids for me." And this is what I think he was trying to say to her. But the thing about it is that Elkanah would not understand her pain because he already has a child. He has children by Peninnah. So he's not in the same position, though they're husband and wife. And this goes to show that sometimes you can be so close to somebody, but they still cannot feel your pain. You can be so close to somebody and they still don't understand what you're going through. You could be so close to someone and they not understand your passion or your purpose or the reason you are bothered about certain things. So yes, he had children by Peninnah. So I guess, yes, he has children. He doesn't know what it is to not have a child and to carry the burden or the pain of such a lack. So she kept on praying, because you know what, Elkanah, it's not about you. I want this experience. I want to know what it feels like to have a child. There is a lack in Israel. Israel needs a teaching priest. Israel needs the voice of a prophet. There is a need for the burden I carry. It's because there is a need. You're carrying a burden for some reason, and you're saying, "But why am I so burdened? Why am I so burdened for women when there are so many programs out there for women? Why am I carrying this burden for men's ministry when there are so many men's ministry out there?" And you're wondering, why am I still carrying this burden for children when there are so many children's programs out there? At the point that Anna was still desperate to have a child, it didn't mean all the women in Israel were barren. No, people were having children. Peninnah is there evident that women were having children. So even though people were still producing, there was still a need. But Hannah, I think if she remembered the name of her husband, she would worry less. God has created God has created. It means there is still the same power to create. But she did not remember that. It's like some of us today. We get worried and this is not happening for me. I need this, I need that. And we look at the things that we lack and we look at the things that we need and we forget who is really our husband, who is our provider, who is our Jehovah Jireh, who is our God. He is the same God yesterday, today, and forever. He's the author. He's the finisher of our faith. He's our provider. He's able to do exceedingly more abundantly than we could ever ask or think. We seem to forget the God that we serve. Much like Hannah seemed to forget the husband that she was married to. So here now we see her praying and praying in the temple. She was still going, my God, to Shiloh. She was still going to pray. She was still seeking God. She went into the temple, and as she prayed in the temple, and Eli the priest saw her, he was like, because she was pouring out her heart and there was no word coming out. It's like some of us today. We pour out our hearts sometimes when we're so much in pain and consumed by the things that we're going through. There is no word. There is no word for the human ear. There's no more word I can speak, or there's not another human ear that I'd want to talk into. I don't think there's anybody around me who will truly understand right now. Elkanah doesn't understand, and he's the closest person to me. Sometimes the closest person to us doesn't even understand. So here she's pouring out her troubled soul to God. And Eli went unto her in verse 14 and said, how long will you be drunk? How long will you be drunken? So here he is, and he is the priest. But guess what? He was not discerning. He was not discerning. How long will you be drunken? Put away the wine from you. Why I got stuck with this verse, that is verse 14. I got stuck with it because while the advice he was given was good, it was not discerning. The advice was good if you're speaking to somebody who is drunk. Your advice is good if you're speaking to somebody who is an alcoholic. He's like, why are you drunken? Put away the wine. That's good advice. By any means, it's not bad. But you have to be speaking that to the right person. So here the priest was not discerning. He was giving the right advice, but to the wrong person, or at the wrong time. Can I tell you, sometimes in our lives when we're seeking after God and we're seeking for things and we're crying out because of a need that is in us, that we need for God to fill. Maybe God is saying to you, I want you to come up higher. I want you to seek me. I want you to spend time in prayer and fasting. I want you to spend some time with me. Sometimes the things that God is asking you for might look ridiculous. It might look ridiculous to others around you. And here there are others around you. They love you. They don't mean you any harm. So they're giving you advice. It's not that their advice is bad. It's just that their advice at this time is not discerning. Their advice at this time is not discerning. It's not a bad advice, but you're not speaking it into the ear of the right person. You're not speaking it at the right time. So somebody might say to you, you need to stop the fasting. You've been fasting for so long. Maybe it's about time you stop praying about this. Maybe it's about time you stop sending out applications. Maybe it's about time you forget about that promotion. Okay, you're trying so hard to get that house and it's not working out, and each time you try, you keep failing. Maybe it's about time you stop trying to get that house. But you know that God promised you that house. You know that there is a need for that house. You know that